My name is Thilo Schimmel. The organizers of the March of Remembrance in Houston have asked me to find words of hope at the moment of crisis as an educator. I support the March of Remembrance and I include my students, because the March teaches them about genocide and injustice, but also that we will never forget this violence. Students learn by joining the March of Remembrance that they are surrounded by a community that remembers and uses such memories to work towards healing and reconciliation. But I also hope our marches demonstrate to students that if they have suffered today, if they have been humiliated because of who they are, that there is a dedicated community of supporters around them that will be on their side. In previous years, students experienced this community in silent marches. This year, they will learn about the strength of commitment of our supporters in a virtual march, as even a pandemic could not stop us from gathering online.
I'm Steve Igal. I'm on the executive board of the Holocaust Remembrance Association. The association has several different projects, one of which is the Holocaust Garden of Hope, which is at Kings Harbor at Kingwood, Texas. The other is the Texas Holocaust Marches of Remembrance. These are going throughout the state and they've been doing for a number of years. They're both on universities and in various towns.
I'm his wife, Christine Igal, and I also serve on the executive board of the Holocaust Remembrance Association and am heavily involved with the Marches of Remembrance and also with the Garden of Hope, as well as the scholarship program we have. And the topic of today's broadcast is Hope in the Face of Humiliation. And you will hear, stay tuned and share, you will hear the stories of people who have found hope even in the face of gross humiliation. And we want to leave you with a scripture before we start in on the details of the program from Isaiah 61:7. Instead of your shame, you shall have double honor. And instead of confusion, they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore in their land they shall possess double. Everlasting joy shall be theirs. So stay tuned to hear more.
Holocaust Remembrance Association presents Hope in Hazardous Times. We're raising our voices against the ever-mutating virus of antisemitism for the healing of the world. Tikkun Olam, Hope in Hazardous Times, for such a time as this. Holocaust Remembrance Association sensitizes hearts to the issues of the Holocaust. Yearly marches of remembrance, university scholarships, and the Holocaust Garden of Hope in Kingwood, Texas are planting seeds of righteousness and raising awareness of the perils of being silent in the presence of social injustice. Remorseful descendants of German Nazi perpetrators organized the first marches in Europe, expanding to over 400 events worldwide and counting. Marches of Remembrance mobilize our world to remember the Holocaust by giving survivors and their descendants a voice to facilitate reconciliation between victims, perpetrators, and their descendants, and to take a stand for Israel and against modern antisemitism. For details, see hra18.org. That's hra18.org. Hope in the face of humiliation.
We welcome you to this broadcast, and you'll be inspired by the various speakers we have, not the least of whom is our friend Holocaust survivor Bill Orlin, whose entire family suffered great humiliation on none other than Kristallnacht. So he will tell his story. I will not tell it for you. But first we want to talk about what humiliation really is. Steve, do you want to explain it?
Humiliation is something that's done in public. Humiliation is something that if it was done in private, it might be considered correction, but in public, it's done to dishonor, it's done to put people down. And if you think about it, that's the victim side of it. But there's also a perpetrator side. That's the person that's doing it or the groups of people that are doing it. So this could be a group on a person or a group on a number of people. And then you have those that stand by and just watch it happen. And that's many of us can associate with that kind of situation where we watch things unfold before our eyes. But to the victim's looking at the whole scene and they see the perpetrator, but they also see the bystanders. Mm-hmm. And between the two of them, they don't see a difference. And so to them, the whole world is coming down around them.
This is a very sobering thought, and it's a subject dear to our hearts, because the Bible says that man is made in God's image. God made man in his own image. And that means we all have a little piece of the image of God in us. And Steve and I are involved in outreach to the sex industry here in Houston. And what has struck me profoundly is that every person has value. And it doesn't really matter what group a person or a group of people try to objectify, or what individual we might try to objectify. If we dishonor or disrespect or dehumanize or depersonalize or objectify any person or group of people made in the image of God, whether that's prostitutes, sex industry workers, Jewish people, gypsies, any group of people, any other race or category of people, if we dishonor them, that really shows that we are perpetrators at some level. And if we are bystanders in the face of people being dishonored, then we're aligning ourselves with the perpetrators. So let's get some hope out of this today and see what our speakers have to say.
Shalom to all the organizers and the people who take part in the March of Remembrance 2020. These days are very difficult days. We all talk about the coronavirus and all its effects, but we all know that there's another side effect that we don't focus enough on, and that is the humiliation that people feel. People feel their dignity is taken away from them. This takes me back to the Holocaust just 75 years ago, when the Jewish people were humiliated. Of course, they were murdered, there were atrocities, but the people that even survived were humiliated, and that has a lot of impact on their future, on their families and the next generations. We must take in consideration the humiliation. We must prepare ourselves to deal with that. I know we can, we will, and in the coming days, in the coming future, the near future, we will overcome. Good luck.
The number of anti-Semitic acts of violence has increased dramatically. Therefore, the March of Life wants to make a statement of solidarity with Israel and against modern anti-Semitism with commemoration marches here in Germany, in Europe and all over the world.
Und gegen den modernen Antisemitismus setzen.
Take to the streets with marches and demonstrations. Just I will never be silent in the face of anti-Semitism. I will never be silent.
As a Hungarian, I am asking forgiveness for our silence. I am so sorry that something like this could happen.
We also ask your forgiveness for what happened to you and your family 50 years ago in March 1968.
We have rejected them at the border. As a representative of the Swiss government and the Swiss policy, I admit our nation's guilt.
I stand here as the granddaughter of a man who helped build this camp.
Der mitgeholfen hat, dieses Lager aufzubauen. Hat mitgeholfen, diese Gaskammern aufzubauen.
He helped to set up the gas chambers. And I'm standing here today, and with all my heart, I would like to ask your forgiveness.
We ask forgiveness for sheltering the Nazis who had fled to Argentina, for protecting them rather than handing them over.
Nunca más. No more anti-Semitism. Marches of life are taking place all over the world. In every city, in every country, every year on Yom HaShoah. An active voice against antisemitism and a voice of friendship with Israel. Raise your voice and be a light. United to be a light.
Dear friends from all over the world, this really is a March of the Nations. It is a real pleasure to welcome you all to the Holy Land, to Israel, and to Jerusalem.
Dear friends, I want to congratulate all the participants of the March of the Nations here in Jerusalem on this very special occasion when we, the State of Israel, celebrate 70 years of our existence.
Okay, we are here with the National Director for the March of Life in Israel, and it happens to be Yom Ha'atzmaut at this recording. And thank you for being on the program, Igal and Martin.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
So, you know, we're doing this program on teaching people that the Holocaust survivors and their stories give us a lot of hope during this time of the pandemic. And you look very successful. I'm sure your father was successful, even though they went through the dark night of the Holocaust. And we need to hear the stories of darkness to light.
בזמן שהנאצים נכנסו לפולין,
when the Nazi arrived to Ishbitze, my grandfather asked my father to run away to the eastern border, to Russia, to save his life, because my grandfather thought that he will not survive. So he asked my father, that was about 15 years old, to run away. My father arrived until Tashkent in the east of Russia, and after many months, almost 2 years, he joined a Polish unit in the Red Army that this Polish unit was one of the unit that liberated Berlin in May 1945, and my father was in this special unit that went until Berlin. After the liberation of Berlin, the end of the war, my father went back, and he wanted to see if he can find anybody from his family. He went back to Ishbitze, and he asked local people about his family. What was going with them? Where are they? And what he learned in this very bad situation by local people, that all his family, except his twin sister, was killed in the death camp of Belzec. When he continued asking about the house of the family, about properties, local people there really tried to kill him, so he ran away. He succeeded to run away from Ishbitze.
ומאישביצה הוא מאותו רגע שהוא ניצל מזה שרצו לחסל אותו.
And from this moment he never go back to Poland, never in his life.
מפולין
From Poland, he went to Austria, to Innsbruck by foot, and
How
from
old was
there, about 19 and a half, 20, something like it was in a very bad winter, and as I said before, by foot to the Italian Alps, to Napoli, to the south of Italy.
With a group of people, with many people, right? He traveled.
Yes, yes.
באיטליה הוא פגש...
In Italy, he met some people from the Jewish brigade, and with them he went to Napoli.
מנפולי, אבי עלה על אונייה והפליג לארץ ישראל.
From Napoli, he took a boat on the illegal aliyah, as you know, to Eretz Israel. We didn't have yet Eretz Israel. It was the British mandate.
וכשהם הגיעו לחיפה, בדרך לחיפה,
they were arrested by the British Navy on their way.
ואבי הוכנס לאוניית מעצר.
This is what year?
I think בתחילת 47, משהו כזה.
1947. And when they arrived near Haifa, they were kept and taken to like a prison boat, and they were taken back, but to
Cyprus.
To Cyprus.
בקפריסין, אבי פגש את אמי.
But there is, I can say something good, because in Cyprus, my father met my mother that was also there. She came from Romania. And they decided together that they will marry only in Israel. So they were married in 1949. My mother arrived to Israel in 1948, and she waited a whole year until my father will arrive to Israel and they will get married.
And she was also a Holocaust survivor, correct?
Yes, from Romania.
From Romania.
And מהמפגש הזה,
on a positive way, I can say that my parents met in Cyprus after a very dark period, but on the other side, I can see the good thing that my parents met each other and got married, and here I am.
That's right, and you are, you've been very leader in the military, right?
Yes, I am Lieutenant Colonel in the Israeli Army. I serve in a special forces until now. And in this year, I finished 15 years in Israel Army, include the reserve forces.
15 or 50?
50.
50. Yeah. That's Hamashim.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you for your service and thank you for your testimony. And I'm so thankful that you're working together with Nazi descendants. Isn't that crazy?
Yes,
it's crazy. Yes,
crazy, but
it's crazy.
אבל כל הזמן אני אומר שהמלחמה.
I didn't spoke a lot about my mother, and I don't know so much about her because she never spoke.
אבל אמא שלי תמיד אמרה.
But my mother always said that the past is not important. What is really important is the future and building and having new life in Israel, in the state of Israel.
Well, we're so thankful. We need to hear the wisdom of these survivors, especially because of what we're dealing with now. We need to have hope for the future.
Yes, really.
Yes. Well, Martine, I thank you, both of you, for everything that you are and what you do, especially for organizing the marches in Israel. And we had to cancel our tour this year to Israel, which is crazy. You know, you work so hard to have a tour and then to cancel it was crazy.
And that it will be the only thing that is crazy.
Rosalind, you know what is the big idea? 6 million people marching all of the world. This is the big idea about all the marching.
Amen. Well, may it be so from your mouth to God's ears. Thank you.
I'm Samuel, I'm 26, and I want to connect to the speech of my dad. I'm a young man, and I've heard a lot about the Holocaust and the Nazi time in Germany, but it was the same feeling for me that this is just history and has nothing to do with me personal. I have to tell you about my story. Until a few years ago, I usually do jokes about Jews. I have a lot of anti-Semitic prejudices against Jews, and I talked a lot anti-Semitic things. Me and my friends, we used to greet each other with the Hitler salute and laughed about it. And I can say I was a neo-Nazi, and I behaved like a young man during the Nazi time in the 30s and 40s. What I didn't know is where these thoughts came from. I thought the same thoughts, I spoke the same ideology like my forefathers, like my great-grandfathers, and I didn't know where it came from until my parents were part of the March of the Nations. I were not part of it, I were no Christian, nothing. And I heard from my dad and from my mom the truth about my family history. And I started thinking about it and realized that I really behaved like the young man in the Nazi time, and I did not make any difference to them. And this really, really shocked me. And this time I became a Christian. I started researching my family history. I found out what my dad has told, that my ancestors or murders are part of the Holocaust, were part of the Holocaust. And this really broke my heart. And the truth changes. The truth did change my heart and changes me and my way of life. And this is the definition of repentance. I turned 180 and tell now my story, my personal testimony. Even it's not beautiful, my story, but I'm now a voice against anti-Semitism, and my forefathers committed their whole life to destroy and murder Jewish life, and I committed my life to stand against anti-Semitism and to say with my life, never again.
I am doing as well as I can under the circumstances we are all living under.
Exactly. In fact, that's why I'm calling you. I know we've been talking about what it's like to be all alone in your apartment. Did that bring any remembrance to you in reference to your time in the Holocaust, of being alone at any time?
Well, I've been alone since my wife died 22 months ago. I'm in the house by myself. Believe me, it's no fun. I'm sitting in my what I call my studio with the books behind me, and you can see a picture of my wife and my kids behind me when we first got married 100 years ago. No, about 47 years ago. And so being alone is no fun, I guarantee you. I've been alone doing the Holocaust Museum as well, but I was a youngster at the time. I was only 7 years old, so I didn't know the difference. And eventually I hooked up with my mother and my grandmother, and we did the best we could, as we do today.
So you were 7 or 8 years old when things went down with the Holocaust of World War II.
I was actually 7 years old, and I had a brother who was 2 years old, because there was a difference of 5 years between us.
Do you remember the big change, or any kind of event that really, made everything, your whole world go upside down, like what we're experiencing now with this pandemic? Do you remember anything, or not really?
I remember everything. I remember the loneliness, the uncertainty, what's going to happen to us, where we slept, what we ate, and what we didn't eat. And mostly we didn't eat. We were lucky to have water that we drank from ditches.
What was that moment in time when you were 7 years old that all of a sudden you were having, dinner somewhere at your house, you were playing in the yard? What was the big event that changed everything?
The big event, I woke up one day and the Germans were in my little town of Brock. It's a little village, consisted of 2,000 people, and 834 were Jewish people. And I found out years later that of the 804 Jewish people, only 30 survived, and I'm one of those 30. We never knew what's going to be from minute to minute, or where we'd end up, or we'd get killed. We were in a place called Ostromazowiecki. They rounded up all the Jews November 11 of 1939 and took them out to the forest and shot them. By that time, we had escaped into Russia.
So do you remember you wanted to bring your dolls, your trucks, your toys?
I had no toys. I had no toys. There was no toys. There was just, I hung on to my mother and my grandmother, my grandfather, because my father had escaped before the advancing Germans. So I had no toys. There was no toys.
So, escape. Here you were in your nice apartment or house. And
No, I'm in a house.
You were in your house?
Yes.
And what happened, after they arrived in your town, you were able to escape the next day? What was the big shift?
No, it took about, we were under German occupation in my town, probably for about 10 days. We were marched to a different town. A small group of us lined up in front of a machine gun and thought we thought we were all going to die that afternoon, but we ended up in this other town in Ostromazowiecki. It was a town of about 10,000 people.
And how did you escape? Wasn't there German rule over you? How did you get it?
Well, actually, we were in the German zone of occupation, and at the time we didn't know there was also a Russian zone of occupation, and the Russian government, the German government, made some sort of agreement that any Jews wishing to leave could be expelled into the Soviet Union. And we didn't know at the time what was happening. I found out many, many years later. So we were actually expelled from Poland. We may be the only group of people that was expelled from Poland in 1939 from this Ostromazowiecki place. And there may have been about 300-400 people. So we ended up in Russia, and that's how we survived.
That's amazing.
Yes, it is. I'm lucky to be alive, and I'm lucky to have come to the United States by way of Uzbekistan, Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Austria, Germany, Italy, Canada. Finally arrived in the United States in '51. I got here as quickly as I could.
Did you, so in 51, so, okay, so 39,
39 to
49,
yeah,
so
51. When I got here in 51, I was already 19. When we arrived in Canada, I was in Canada I was 16. So for 9 years, we were typical wandering Jews.
Did you get to go to school? You had to move constantly?
I was in school. I was in school in Russia, and I was in school in Uzbekistan. I was in school in Ukraine. In Poland, I did not go to school. I did join a Hebrew school operated by at that time, the Israeli people from Palestine. And then I went to school in a DP camp in Germany. And I learned English. That's where I learned British English in the DP camp.
This is amazing, Bill. So what everybody's experiencing right now with this pandemic, with COVID, and at the time of this interview with you, it's April 5th, 2020, and we don't know here in Houston, the multiplication of the COVID virus is increasing every day. And multiplying, and so we don't know. The laws are changing every day. The rules of if you can go out, if you can't go out, do you wear a mask? Do you don't wear a mask? Everything's changing day by day. Does it bring back memories?
It brings back memories because of the uncertainty of this the virus. We don't know what's going to happen, who's going to live and who's going to die, and that's the same thing we went through. But you have to stay positive. I'm alone here. I stay positive. I do what I can to keep myself busy. You have to stay positive and try to contact your friend. Be in touch. I call people on the phone. I talk to different people. I talked to Ruth Steinfeld. I spoke to Anna Steinberger the other day. I call different people that I know or that I haven't spoken. I talked to Al Marks and his wife the other day. I want to be in contact with people because I don't want. The uncertainty could drive you crazy. So
we don't want that. It's been. We're talking about trauma that could be stirred back up again, and that's why I felt I had to do this program and contact all of you guys, see how you're doing. But I also wanted. I felt very strongly. Excuse me, I get emotional with this, but I felt very strongly that you, of all people, of the whole world, you guys know how to speak hope into the hearts and minds of people. And, this particular program that we have you on with is Hope in the Face of Humiliation. I have a question for you. You experienced humiliation during the Holocaust?
Absolutely.
What was the worst scenario for you?
The worst scenario is when the Germans put us in front of a machine gun, and we thought this was the last minutes of our life. There was about a dozen of us lined up in front of this machine gun in a clearing in the forest on a highway between my little town of Brock and Ostrov-Mazowiecki. But the main thing we always had is hope. My mother used to tell us, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. And that's where we had hope. We had hope. And it's a wonderful thing that we got to the United States, the best country in the world, and I'm honored to have served in the United States Army, part of occupation forces in Germany. I was occupied by the Germans in 1939 at age 7, and then I occupied the Germans 14 years later at age 21.
So you were blessed to have an experience of a healing in some level with that, didn't you?
Say that again?
You received some kind of a healing by getting to do that.
Well, I didn't consider it a healing. Remember, I was representing the United States. I was an ambassador. I had to be on a perfect behavior while I was occupying captured people or vanquished people. But I always felt that, now it's my turn to be in charge, so to speak. But I did not take advantage of it. I did not. I felt sorry for the average German people because most of the people I dealt with had nothing to do with what happened to me in the war.
Hello, I'm Thomas Meister, German Consul General in Houston. My message to you is very brief. A few weeks ago, Germany assumed the chair of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And within this alliance, we want to counter Holocaust denial and the distortion of the Holocaust. And in this context, we commit ourselves to raise our voices against the virus of anti-Semitism and for the healing of the world. Tikkun Olam.
Bill, we have the honor of honoring you with this special plaque here, and I just want to share with the audience that yesterday Bill came to Kingwood. We had a march, our second annual march up there, and Bill shared his story. And Bill, every time you share your story, like I know you're going to share a little bit here, you're ripping open a part of your life that it's like the wound. You're reliving it, and we know you do it because it's important for us to remember not to do this again. And we just thank you, Bill. We thank you for the memorial that you left us with the Holocaust Museum in Houston for our community. So when your voice won't be able to go out there anymore, we have something here that we will remember, that we can never forget what you had to go through. Bless you.
Hi, I'm Rosalie Jerome, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Claudia Kiesinger, whose grandparents were Nazis and in the Nazi Party, and she'll tell you about that. And my parents were Holocaust survivors, and we have become good friends. So here's Claudia in New York on lockdown.
Hello, yeah, Claudia, and it's a privilege to be doing this interview today, and especially with the topic hope in the face of isolation. And I had to think that this, I'm living right now here in New York, it's just a tiny, it's not even comparable, but a tiny little glimpse on how it must have been for the Jewish people during the Holocaust and the Third Reich. And for me, to understand what they went through, I cannot, but with this little experience that we have right now, it brings it so much closer. And so my grandfathers were both in the Nazi Party. One of them, he joined the Nazi Party in 1933, left the Catholic Church and became a member. And my other grandfather was always said that he was not even in the party, and that's why he got harassed for it. He was. When we did our research, I got copies of his Nazi Party membership card, and so there's a lot to learn. And for a long time, I didn't ask, and both my grandfathers passed away already. But we started the research into our family histories, and as the topic is hope in the times of isolation, actually one of my grandfathers, he was part of the German army when they besieged St. Petersburg for almost 3 years. And he was one of those radio operators, and they waited outside that city just for the people to die. And when I first got hold of protocols of court cases where witnesses shared what happened within St. Petersburg, I was totally devastated, because realizing that my grandfather just was part of them, waiting for them to die, of the army for them to die. And this very grandfather, only 2 years ago, we found pictures of the war. Those, probably most of you know, or many of you know, those little square black and white pictures, photographs that he brought back with him. I don't know how he got them. Yes, he was in communications, but back then not everybody had his cell phone to make selfies or photographs. So, and it was this whole cigar box filled with pictures, and some of them, they were just regular war pictures, so to say, like bomb bridges, things like that. But in going through those pictures, I suddenly found a picture filled with dead bodies, just lined up, and on the back he wrote, and I know it's his own handwriting. My dad said it's his father's handwriting. Family members are looking for family members, and I was totally shocked that he had a picture like that, and others too. I don't know where it was taken. There was no place or date on it, and I couldn't figure out where. I called everywhere. But for me to see that was even more to realize he knew what was going on. He saw everything, and he was this regular guy from some little village. He was part of this whole machinery of the Holocaust, just looking at, seeing everything, knowing everything, and not speaking about it. And for me, that's why it's for me so important, even in isolation, actually right now, to raise against anti-Semitism, because I heard a comment of Deborah Lipstadt just lately where she compared anti-Semitism to a dormant virus, that whenever a crisis comes, it pops up. And we even see that in this corona crisis right now, that anti-Semitism is popping up. And those weird accusations going against the Jewish people, or even Israel saying they want to make money with the vaccine and all these things. And I think, how can this happen more than 70 years after the Holocaust? And this is why I want to share my own family story, because we are regular people. I'm a regular person, but it starts with me to talk about what really happened during that time, and also for me expressing how sorry I am, what my family did to the Jewish people. And Rosalie, I remember that we were together in Hungary, and your parents were from Hungary, and my grandfather was there. So it was for me so very special, and to be together with you on the March of Life there, and seeing how God restored so much and gave us a relationship that we could have never dreamt of. So thank you.
That's right. I want to thank you for sharing. And we pray for protection for you as you're in lockdown in New York, which is the biggest hotspot right now during this filming. And I just want to also say that for anyone watching this program today, it would be important for you to contact Claudia if you want to start, when we can get out in the streets again, and do a march, help a march happen in your town to help remember the Holocaust during the month of April, which is Holocaust and Genocide Awareness Month in America. So Claudia would be the person to contact, and her website is marchofremembrance.org. Ours for Texas is marchofremembrancetexas.org. Thank you very much, Claudia.
Thank you. So I want to add also is that the motto for this year's Marches of Remembrance and March of Life would have been, it's not enough to say never again. So putting feet to words, and what I'm doing here, and it's so precious for me to have Holocaust survivors really being my friends. And just 2 days ago, I called from her in this lockdown here in New York, saying, hey, my phones are not working. I cannot call anybody. Actually, she sent me a message on Facebook to call her, and can you not come? And so, okay, this is I went out and visited her and could get her cell phone working again, but she was so in fear and she's so getting depressed because this is what she lived through during the Holocaust, and it's precious to have a friendship, but even more very practically being able to help her and lifting that burden that is on her shoulders right now in very practical way. And we do that. I do this here. We do it in Israel, in Caesarea, with our March of Life house, and wherever we can do.
Amen. Well, thank you very much. I know also a lot of you are helping with the mentally ill group in Israel, doing volunteer work. So Nazi descendants helping mentally ill Jewish children in Israel is quite a statement. All right, stay safe. God bless you.
Ich hab gelernt, dass nur die Wahrheit was verändert. Manchmal ist sie schmerzhaft, doch Lüge ist in Wahrheit nur ein Kerker. Schweigen ist der Wärter. Kein Gegner ist härter. Ich will erzählen, was mich das gelehrt hat. Ich hab gemerkt, dass ich geizige Menschen Juden nannte, obwohl ich nicht einen einzigen Juden kannte. Hab gedacht, Juden erkennt man an der Nase. Stellte meine Vorurteile lange nicht in Frage. Shoah wurde unterrichtet in der Klasse, doch 6 Millionen Morde sind zu viele, sie zu fassen. Das ist Geschichte, aber mir fehlt der Bezug. Ich bin Mitte 20, was hat das mit mir zu tun? Ja klar, kann man ja verstehen, Vergangenheit soll ruhen, wenn man jung ist, will man leben. So einfach ist es nicht, es brauchte, bis ich merkte, diese Prägung ist ein Erbe, denn es lebt in meinem Herzen. Sprich, werde Licht, mit dir bekommt die Wahrheit ein Gesicht. Es zählt, was du tust oder nicht, für einen neuen Weg braucht es einen neuen Schritt. Sprich, werde Licht, mit dir bekommt die Wahrheit ein Gesicht. Es zählt, was du tust oder nicht, für einen neuen Weg braucht es einen neuen Schritt. Es ist wichtig, was heute ist, für einen neuen Weg braucht es einen neuen Schritt. Es reicht nicht aus, sich auf die Zukunft zu fokussieren. Wer seine Zukunft kennen möchte, muss wissen, wo seine Wurzeln liegen. Also fing ich an zu recherchieren, meine Linie waren Nazis, Soldaten, Offiziere. Das ist meine Familie, Mörder, Vergewaltiger und Diebe, die Juden gejagt haben wie Tiere, und nach dem Krieg haben die Väter dann geschwiegen. Reden ist Silber, Schweigen ist Gold, was? Ich kann nicht glauben, dass das ja keiner gewollt hat. Ich zeige auf niemandem mit dem Finger, doch die Lügen über Juden leben heute in ihren Kindern. Es ist wichtig, was ich damit mache, denn ich merke, diese Prägung ist ein Erbe, denn es lebt in meinem Herzen. Sprich, werde Licht, mit dir bekommt die Wahrheit ein Gesicht. Es zählt, was du tust oder nicht, für einen neuen Weg braucht es einen neuen Schritt. Sprich, werde Licht, mit dir bekommt die Wahrheit ein Gesicht. Es zählt, was du tust oder nicht, für einen neuen Weg braucht es einen neuen Schritt. Heute bin ich Theologe und ich bin Christ, doch die besseren Menschen sind das jetzt nicht. Schon die Kirchenväter und die ersten Theologen haben gelogen über Juden und die Schuld auf sie geschoben. Und diese Vorurteile führten zu Pogromen. Der Antijudaismus steht auf religiösem Boden. Martin Luther hätte sie vertrieben und bestohlen, hat gesagt, man sollte Feuer legen in den Synagogen. 2000 Jahre verfolgten die Christen Juden hart, obwohl Jesus Jude war. Eigentlich sollten wir eingesetzt werden in den Baum, doch wir kappten die Wurzel und die Blätter wurden braun. Ich sehe nicht, dass die Zeit Wunden geheilt hat und glaube nicht, dass Arbeit, sondern Wahrheit frei macht. Heute ist entscheidend, was ich mache, denn ich merke, diese Prägung ist ein Erbe, denn es lebt in meinem Herzen. Sprich, werde Licht, mit dir bekommt die Wahrheit ein Gesicht. Es zählt, was du tust oder nicht, für einen neuen Weg braucht es einen neuen Schritt. Sprich, werde Licht, mit dir bekommt die Wahrheit ein Gesicht. Es zählt, was du tust oder nicht, für einen neuen Weg braucht es einen neuen Schritt. Sprich, werde Licht, mit dir bekommt die Wahrheit ein Gesicht. Es zählt, was du tust oder nicht, für einen neuen Weg braucht es einen neuen Schritt. Sprich, werde Licht, mit dir bekommt die Wahrheit ein Gesicht. Es zählt, was du tust oder nicht, für einen neuen Weg braucht es einen neuen Schritt.
So just because we're focusing on the COVID-19, here we are in our homes, I'm not used to doing interviews like this. I'm used to being there with you, or it's just, well, we're learning Zoom. What can I say? But the other question I have is, how would you speak hope to people who feel ashamed, humiliated, or marginalized due to being ill, or perhaps due to having inadvertently infected someone? Also, we have senior citizens that are very much isolated. Nobody's allowed to visit them because they might infect us or we might infect them. Temperatures taken every day with them. And
absolut.
Only someone who's going through this themselves right now, the fears, maybe the fear of the future, what will happen, can imagine and fathom what this feels like for somebody else. But even if the doors around you are closed, there's the good news that the way to heaven is open. And you have a Father in heaven who is loving and who has never abandoned you. And when he looks at you, he smiles at you, like a father seeing his child in need. And he picks you up, takes you in his hands and says, neither heights nor depth, nothing can take you out of my hand. And he breathes on you, and it's the breath of God that will touch you, heal you, strengthen you. It's not punishment for you that you are maybe infected or that you need to live with this punishment. But the Lord speaks to you and he says, according to Psalm 23, if you walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
dann bin ich bei dir.
I am with you.
Und ich lasse dich nicht los.
And I will.
Shalom Chaverim, I'm Rabbi Dan Gordon of Temple Beth Torah. I have a story for you today that involves humiliation. Humiliation can be one of the most devastating things. It makes us feel like less of a person. And who can hurt us the most but those we're closest to? A story is told that comes from the Talmud about a man and a son who had an argument with each other. One felt that the other had humiliated him so badly, and no one remembers who said it first, but one of them said, "I never want to see you again." And the other said, "That's fine by me." And the son left home, and much time had gone by. And the father began to regret his words and his actions. And so he sent a letter to his son. He thought long and hard about what to say. Finally, he wrote, "All is forgiven. All is forgotten. Please come home." He waited a long time for a return. The son didn't return. But the father finally got a message that said, "I cannot forgive. I cannot forget. I cannot come home." The father was devastated. And so he thought long and hard about what he could do. Could he give up? Could he try again? Could he plead? Finally, the words came to him. He sent back this message. "I understand. Please, come just as far as you can. I will meet you there." Dear friends, when we feel like we have been pushed down, when we feel that we have been diminished, this is our time to come just as far as we can. And please, God, meet us there.
וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל אהרון ואל בני ישראל לאמור, כה תברכו את בני ישראל, אמור להם, יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאיר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא פניו אליך וישים לך שלום. ושמו את שמי על בני ישראל, ואני אברכם. אמן.
We hope that your heart was touched and that you are stirred to raise your voice in these uncertain times. Partner with the Holocaust Remembrance Association in remembering the Holocaust, facilitating reconciliation and taking a stand. Visit www.hra18.org. If you would like to see March of Remembrance in your community or at your local university, call 1-888-546-8111. That's 1-888-546-8111. Plant your finances in this meaningful project. For details, see hra18.org. That's hra18.org for donations and sponsorships. hra18.org, sensitizing hearts to the issues of the Holocaust.